Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode. There is something that I think, as trivia, pretty much everybody should know by now, but that there is a sentence by Prince Hamlet in Shakespeare's work where he says to be or not to be. That quote, to be or not to be, for a philosopher or for someone who's wondering about the various ways that the eyes can move on this earth, it is a profound statement. And I was honestly thinking of attempting to name the title To Be or Not to Be, To Be, Not to Be, Then How to Be. Now, in order to be, one has to do. So pretty much the sentence is to be or not to be is should there be effort or should there not be effort? Today I was sitting by this staircase where I normally sit and I ponder. I thought about, to continue guys, I thought about pretty much the inner realms and should we be in the inner realms or not? This is such an important question. Now we're at a point where people are just getting acquainted to how we are more than subjects. Being more than a subject and an object doesn't mean necessarily you're something else. It just means you're seeing way more out of what was there before. Really, when we think about what is wisdom for a temporary being, it's like on one angle, the intellectual pursuit is for what, max 100 years? Then it's a totally different situation. Either like Socrates says when he was kind of sentenced to drink poison in the school of Athens. Sorry, not in the school of Athens, in the court in Athens by the old men of Athens. Pretty much back then they had their own metaphysics. Gods were walking on the clouds, and Socrates was saying something different. And so, actually, he could have gotten out of that court trial, but because of his pride, like they attacked his pride, and his pride, especially with the logos, with the idea of the logos back in the day, was. Anyway, Socrates pretty much he says, "I will." He's looking at his fellows, the people who are around there, around him before he dies, and he says, "I will either go to a place where there is no Socrates," his famous words, no Socrates, where there is nothing, or I will go to a place where all the questions I have been wondering about in this life will be answered. So what does that mean? That means Socrates, this man who literally quotes of wisdom come from him, like he says the only true wisdom is to know that you know nothing. It wasn't that he knew nothing. You know, I feel there's something unique. If you look at, for example, most children and child psychology, the child is trying to, based on the models, the archetypes that are in front of it, it is trying to be it. You know, that means it's like, I remember when I was in Iran, the family went to a religious pilgrimage. My grandmother, aunts, and there was this situation. I think I was maybe 6. I was so young. I just remember. You know, me and my brother and my father, we went to this mosque in Mashhad in Iran, and we just sat in the mosque quietly. You know, we just found a corner of the place. It was a very crowded area. You know, the place we went to in Iran. This is in Iran when I was like 7, 6. And we went to this kind of, when we went to the mosque, we sat in the corner and it was a kind of silence. Of course, me and my brother, we were in a, our eyes were everywhere, like we were looking at everything. But I remember my father just sat there in silence. And I remember me and my brother beside my father, like I have a twin brother, so my brother was on the other side of my father. I was on the other side. We were like two 7-year-old kids beside my dad in this mosque in Iran. And I remember when my dad was praying, we were so young, we didn't we didn't even know what we were doing. We were just trying to like emulate, you know. And of course, my father is very his eyes are open to the Sufi path. But anyways, I'm just trying to make this point that when we're younger, in order to be things, we look at what we want from around us and we try to be that, you know. And I feel this psychology, it doesn't stop until the person really wants to be their own self, you know. That means there's endless ways. Like you could literally, you could look at this world and see endless people. Like I could just fathom, you know, for example, I don't know, let's say it comes to archery, like so many people on the planet better than me in archery, do you know? Now I can compare myself to the better archers in the realm, or I can compare myself to the better archer I will be. Because honestly, when you compare yourself with others, you're technically still comparing yourself with yourself because we don't have other people's eyes. You know, that means all those people who are jealous, I don't even know, they're jealous of their own psyche. Because unless when I mean in regards to like experience, because we have a world where it's literally like a car that you use. Like when you're driving the car, you don't look at the engine. You don't open the hood and look at the engine while you're driving the car, you know. So what you do is in moments when you're not driving life, you just step out of the vehicle and you look at it, you know. And in some of those moments, the person finds that you have no choice. Here, when he says to be or not to be, it's actually not the notion of being. That means it's kind of strange. It's like the inseparability of action, doing something, and being something. You know, back in the day, you were something. The mystical insight, it's as if they just opened their eyes and they knew they were. Now we open our eyes and it's not, we don't know we are. It's a totally different um, phase of the earth. You know what's more interesting? The more insight, the more knowledge our species has, the more third person considerations it can have. When I look at desire, I don't see my desires in third person. Do you know what I mean? That means it's like my desires, when I think about like what I want in the future, it's first eye view. It's literally like a video game where you only see the hands of the character, you know? And then certain things I noticed this, that desires that are first person view are, they're a bit inferior. There is a strange revelation that comes from silence, that intelligence is mere movement. To be or not to be. Another way of saying to experience or not to experience. To be in the inner realms, you require to be aware of the outer realms first. To truly be in the inner realms. Because many people, when you go into your inner realms, there's no alphabet. There is a thoughts and images that arise, but the processing of it, it's as if it's like an empty-handedness, the mind. You know, I'll give you an example. It's like this. If anybody who's listening, let's try an exercise. I'll give you just a simple thing I want to show. If you were to close your eyes right now, whoever's listening, just close your eyes for a moment. Just close your eyes. Now, I want you to keep your eyes closed and wonder how it felt when your eyes were open. I just want you to try to feel that if your eyes were closed right now, how you feel about when they were open. You know, it feels like you had access, now you don't, right? You had access to a landscape of sensory information, a dimension of sensory information, and it feels like now you don't. It's the same with the inner realms, but it has nothing to do with the senses. The senses are being watched, attributelessly watched. That means not only the person has to accept themselves, you have to accept the space where the self is even arising in. You know, and that's much harder. That requires a sort of uh, renunciation of even the universal memory. It's an event. You know, it's like a signal. Truth is a signal. Who knew? Like a lighthouse from the distance. Anything that the person notices as a tool, I feel can be used. Now, if the person is just their inner realm, they are moving in accordance to, you can say, solid information rather than, let's say, liquid information. Let's say, like a substance, there were three states of information. You know, there was a solidified information, you know, a liquid state and a gas state. Now, information that was gas was learned noticing things, expanding what one knows by noticing the space. So for me, you're listening to someone who, it is true, I entertain metaphysical notions, but I also entertain that space is a body for the soul. Space is not the ultimate, it's a body. That means what appears as a world to man is a higher dimensional body. And what appears to that mind of that higher dimensional body is another body. It's like an angle. It's like when you look down, oh, it's all matter based. When you look up, oh, it's not matter based. I mean, that's just a simple metaphor, but I'm just trying to say it's like as subtle as that. We have to all process our existence, what our existence means to us. We have to process what our experience reveals. For me, existence is like the alphabet, and experience is like the words being chosen, being formed. And you know what it's like? This life kind of feels. I remember when I was very young, again, around the age of 6, 7, but this was in Canada. At a young age, I came to Canada, uh, Vancouver, and I remember there was this show, Art Attack. Literally, it was this dude who the cameraman would follow. He was placing like these meaningless objects on the ground. Then from a helicopter, you would see a face. And sometimes I feel we are zoomed in. Matter and manifestation for the individual human being is literally like a camera zoomed in. When it zooms out, you just see there were different landscapes involved. What does that mean? That means it's like we are looking at life as if, let us say, it's a mathematical equation, then suddenly realizing there were parts to that mathematical equation which were covered, or the person who wrote it forgot to put it in, but it's still there, you know? It's like, imagine, E equals mc squared. Imagine the squared of the light wasn't there. And then some, it's like people look at it and it's like something is off. And that's the thing. It is not designed to make sense. It is designed to happen. I'm not joking, guys. Today I spent literally after lunch just staring at branches of a tree. I will tell you something phenomenal. Birds communicate through tone. And I was looking at this bird, wondering if human beings are any different. Animals aren't depressed, they're not stressed. It's like they don't have an opinion. It's like they can't have an opinion on their self. They can interact with their environment, but they can't have an opinion on their self. We, on the other hand, can have an opinion on ourselves, which makes us behave differently. Really, what is the purpose of a bird? What is the purpose of a squirrel? What is the purpose of design? It doesn't have any purpose. The purpose is a higher dimensional relationship. Purpose is a multidimensional relationship. A human being can very easily communicate to another human being. But if we were to start talking, let's say you started speaking Japanese to a lion, hoping it would understand, you know, the lion would just stare at you and be like, "Who are you?" Language has meaning to its creator. Doesn't have meaning to another life form. Are we just sounds in the void? There was a scene from Rick and Morty where Rick creates this butter thing, you know, something that passes the butter, this robot. The robot says, "What's my purpose?" And the person, Rick is like, "You pass butter." And the robot's like, "Oh my God, it's just that simple." I think even if a person looks for a purpose or meaning in life, let's say you did the purpose and the meaningfulness, like you did it, whatever you were meant to do on this planet, imagine you did. What then? What after you have found the meaning of life? What if after finding the truth and meaning of the truth, we realize, oh my God, now we got to use what we found? You know? Imagine the person's like, I found truth, but it came with the instruction manual. You know? We are manually instructing ourselves. We are the instruction manual to the cosmos. We are like that rare opportunity where if like think about it, imagine you wanted to be a being that could study the world through yourself. The only way you could do that is by being born in the world. On one level, yes, it is the case that being a human is temporary, but on another level, it's like, why are you on a roller coaster ride? Why are you in Wonderland right now? Why are you in a realm? To be in the inner realms, we can say it's like the yogic virtue where there were two types. You can say there is a sort of virtue of the innocent, and then the virtue of the warrior that has been in the battle and back, has seen the chaos. a sort of virtue of an order that hasn't seen the chaos, and then a virtue of an order that has seen the chaos and as is normal, you know. So eyes that have seen the battlefield and eyes that haven't. Two types of order, yet chaos is one. That's the thing, you know, that's the uniqueness. This is why laws make sense, order makes sense more than chaos, because chaos is equivalent in any dimension. When things break, it doesn't matter in what dimension they break, but when things take shape, they take shape in unique ways, in unique dimensions. And this may be an incredibly, you know, odd statement to hear, but imagine every cell of your body had a brain. I feel it's very obvious. People are born from people. Worlds are born from worlds. To be or not to be in the inner realms, once you go truly within, the in and out stop. Your attention moves to something totally different, the life of the moment. In some talks, I've called it the soul of the moment. An example I gave was when I was in the UK, when I suddenly felt like, imagine a giant sphere is around you. You're like you're sitting in a giant glass, let's say giant sphere, okay? And this sphere, this glass sphere, imagine somehow it's like it moves past you, or you are sitting in the center, and it rolls out of the room slowly. And I felt my there was a time in the UK in 2014 where I was in a very strange situation, and my intuition literally saved me. Literally, it guided me out of a situation because I could notice it. Imagine right now, in another dimension, all the teachers in the cosmos are telling you the ultimate. But it's just that we don't see. You know, sometimes I feel it's like this: intelligence is not accumulation of symbology. Intelligence is realizing what is the most important value in view, because that's really what you can do. For me, it was it's impossible to be an individual technically if we zoomed in, micro zoomed into who we are. It's impossible to be an individual. No person is functioning with one memory as one person, like as if we're one painting. It's like a film, endless frames. So in a world where we're endless frames, to be or not to be, one moment you're going to be, and then you're also not going to not be. It's to be and not to be. That's how life goes. But now let's say it's to be and not to be, and now how to be. That means it's pretty much a coin flip, you know? Meaning, truth. Let's say you find the truth. Let's say right now we find that the truth of the world is, I don't know, some equation called E equals A. I don't know, I'm just making that up, but I'm saying. Let's say we find the truth of the world is E equals A or whatever. Like energy equals awareness or something. I don't, Now, let's say everybody found out that truth, E equals A, for example, this hypothetical thing I'm saying. Imagine everybody's like, yeah, E equals A. Then what? You know? Then we have to again come to the unknown. So the sooner in your life you can actually experientially find some contentment with the unknown, the more of life you actually get to see. I want to read a poem from a poetry book I wrote called Glowing Madness in 2016. The poem is called O Mightiest of the Mightiest. O mightiest of the mightiest, where am I? Many tears have pilgrimaged beyond the blindness of my temporal eyes, but what remains? O mightiest of the mightiest, how is conception here? What has made this world feel caged in the 10 cities of the fingertips? What tip can tip over causality? All phenomena comes from divine administration, but these words do not belong to ink. The true path is not concerned about the truth in changing shapes. What educates beyond the heroic cape? Seize the moment, for it has seized you first. O mightiest of the mightiest, how has all come to be, the universe within you? The next poem from the same book, Glowing Madness, is called Woman Before Men. Has this bloom from? What gives the sugar cube its sweet dimensions? When men have remembered where all men have come from, the queen's crown will always be heavier than the king. What gives tyranny equilibrium? An equal task. The journey into silence shall become. Sorry, I'm going to read that again. An equivocal task, the journey into silence shall become. Where are the fruits of the culture of the sacred ones? Mankind must never forget womankind. Womankind must never forget mankind. When the tally is set, wars that never exist begin. Rest the ignorance of eons. Fall in love. This poem is called, from the same work, When Causality Meditates. Can you sit with your world as your world? What are you a part of? Has the light in your eyes traveled far? We begin when we can transcend our end. When the ape evolves, so does manifestation. Take a jab and feel the pain that must break before intrusion. Love is the wondrous one healer. Feel the planet in your veins. We must trust the choice that is choiceless after it has chosen itself. Do these words seem intertwined? Who do you think gave Alice directions to Wonderland? A black hole holds secrets that will never be revealed if the event horizon is cancelled. The magnanimous mediate with causality's focus. Be the cosmic connection. When causality meditates, all are ambitious. Oh my god, this next poem is called Massacre of Egos. Like EGOS, egos, you know. Who has picked up the weapon of a selfless divine warrior? Some have hurt themselves by not listening to themselves. This world is a multidimensional cone that transcends prism walls. Prism walls. The geometry speaks for itself. Manifestation goes nowhere once it is now here. What gives the dove its white meaning? Can the heart beat the hand before it beats itself? The love of man is what keeps the bird on the branch. Do not ignore the earth you come from. All girls know of the mother within. All men shall remember the Father, the omniscience within. Taken by truth's embrace, be the giver of the light in your eyes. The ego will go through a massacre, but you will not. All that remains is the dot that connects all lines to the empty page. All are sacredness. There is something else going on in this planet other than just humanhood. I feel its symbiosis with the collective field, therefore it's rhythmic, they strange. We're going to remember our future. It's going to feel like that. Because it's a dimensional memory. Imagine you can have memories in one dimension, but you can have, imagine you were a dimension hopper or something. You were like a bunny that was jumping from dimension to dimension, imagine. You would see, you would have memories from different dimensions. And you can also have different memories in one dimension. You know, it's interesting. If someone was to ask me, who are you? I can give them an answer. You know, a thought arises, I give them an answer. But when I think about really who I am, I see my endless memories. I see all the different ways I've existed on this planet so far. You know, so we are never just one self. It's like we're watching thoughts come and go, and as we move in the moment, we identify with the moment, with the thought. There will come a day where games stop and the person sees the whole thing. Before actually I end with the poems, I'm gonna just randomly choose one. Let's go Shaken Demise. The Hidden Epiphany. Oh my god, this is gonna ninja warrior of pronunciation for me. The hidden epiphany is not an epithet of every. Give love to its source and know you're cosmically loved. What words have entered and exited the mind of minds? Love the vastness of the experiencer's brush from beyond. Love yourself both visibly and invisibly. What is the task of a drop in the ocean? Have the mask dissolved into all that is? Can the sun surrender to the Father of its cause? A celestial family is beyond space and time. The roar of one man shall become the reflection of the wilderness of mankind. Beyond shaken demise, you are your absolute rise. Sorry, guys, this got disconnected. Um, where was I? Where are we all? All right. To be implies there is something there that can't before the being. That means if you can be something, that means you're in a state that you are not that thing. So to be is being mind before body. To not to be is perhaps body that has realized it doesn't need to just be a body. Because what is being? Let us say we're neither an object, we are watching the object. We're neither a subject, We're noticing the subjects. We can watch the subject, and we're. It's like what happens when you put the reflection of a mirror in front of another mirror? What is the reflection of a mirror? The reflection of a mirror is an infinite illusion. So I think if man even attempts to comprehend the truth, he will meet the infinite void. If we are minds, we can't fear objectivity. It doesn't even make sense. If we are just matter, we still can't fear anything because matter doesn't have a mind. That means the definition of a mind and the definition of a body are totally different, but we say we have both of them. I think we're going to comprehend the mind as the field of activity of the knower. That's a better definition for it. That means if we have minds to know things when we are active, it's like knowledge is like noticing the field of activity. Literally, as I'm speaking right now, I'm noticing the livelihood of my moment, you know? You know, there could be so many debates that the way language is designed is language can't contain truth. It can point to it, but it can't contain it. It can point towards an experience. It can even be a mirror sometimes. I mean, in a dream state, you don't have a choice. You are the inner realms. But in the conscious waking state, you can choose to not notice, like keep the inner realms in your periphery, so you just think it's only reality. That could be the case. But anytime a system becomes multidimensional, it can't have a belief on location. So, guys, I'm gonna read. To be honest, I'm kind of wondering like how long to be or not to be in this talk. But I felt like reading this one last thing before I end off actually for tonight. But from the source of language, chapter essay 28, conscious existence is bliss. That's the name of the chapter, the essay. Bliss is consciousness, and consciousness is bliss. This sentence is perhaps one of the most important sentences in human language to be experientially understood. What is there not to enjoy when you are in joy? As academic exploration of transcendentalism, self inquiry, and consciousness is advanced and required, wisdom finds the humble man who acknowledges the intelligence of life. Many people assume this existence is empty, so they forget that it is always communicating to them. So if the world is talking to you and you don't even hear it or acknowledge it, that would be karmically rude. Be the self. Truth is always truth. Even modern windows look like small doors. Love the body of your existence. Anyone asking God for something has not truly comprehended their true nature within. Yourself is everywhere at once. There is no dreamer and there is no awakened. Yourself pervades and is beyond dictatable terms. If you use language like a mirror, you're a wise man with a long invisible beard. As tornadoes remind us of greater beings, the natural world is an eternal discovery. The whole cosmos is within you right now, and you're within it. Look at how your existential perception is originating, for God's sakes. Culture is blind to history, and history is blind to consciousness that never went anywhere. The history that is chained in language will always be an empty story. The universal intelligence is omnipresently happening in one moment. Now we either inefficiently consider the whole universe empty of intelligence, or we also consider it can be filled with intelligence. Wisdom, silence, stillness, trust, letting the divine happen. The self that is within others is not an agreeable or disagreeable concept. It is an experiential remembrance that when you associate with the limited, you forget that you're limitless. Beyond definitions, the world spins. Some mountain. Okay, guys, I shall continue. Some mountain climbers, I'll read it again. Some mountain climbers climb mountains with their eyes closed and without moving. The mind is a preview of a much deeper and transcendental reality that is happening as I write these words. Do you not realize that you are God's walk on an empty rock in space? Energy and biospheres cannot be studied well from this dimension. The earth is not the source of movement, the heavens are. The body is not the source of movement, the mind is. So who is aware of the movement of the mind? Who can define the man in the mirror just as a reflection? Let the karma of the day exhaust itself. Is money a reflection of void time? Reality is an innate acceptance beyond thought. After you grow up, you die. The personality can only acknowledge a certain amount and narrow range of imagery and collective existential abstraction. Is the world you see in the morning free imagination? Study the architecture of language. This cannot be emphasized enough. The idea you share is destiny itself. All memories are in a divine now, bouncing in ideas. When lions roar at aliens, the energetic display and perception of this from another dimension would be wondrous to witness. That roar has an energetic expression, and the hypothetical alien would receive it, fascinated by the design of our world. The shape of the world is in your eyes, not out of it. In the market of ideas, the cube of realization must be found. It's not easy to say. Perhaps Buddha should be a UN translator. Oh man, that's so silly. Industries are not fixed assets. Shape is our bridge to abstract, in quotations, abstract handling. Sober is not the only healthy altered state of consciousness when the Ribhu Gita becomes your divine mirror. All have transcended the non-self into now. Responsibility leads to duty, and natural duty leads to collective self-realization. You are the eyes of the cosmos. Beauty is the essence of who you are. God is beyond language, because language points to the individual. Silence is beyond the language of actions. False pride is a waste of time. Accept yourself. Let go of demigod pride. As the artificialness of all relationships is realized, the void is talking to itself. You are beyond the animal-God body. Now is real. Who are language and words to tell you who you are and what is the essence of your world? Love and compassion is wisdom and divine grace. Your breath is the presence of the ultimate. Memory is contained and evolved through language. Perhaps everything any human being has ever said has just been the nature of vibration. To study the dynamics of a story is to study the story of life. Free yourself from the concept of distance. The body travels, but not the, in quotations here, the body travels here and now. What existence is not going anywhere. What I mean by that is like the experience of here is there. And freedom is here right now. The days of desire are over. Enlightenment has come. Doubt is a veil that never needed to be there, as the dialogue of starlight with itself turns the page. The word, in quotation, starlight, will tell you to start light as you inquire into the nature of the inquiry. Some questions in this human world are very profound mirrors of divine intervention. Many are trying to go from earth to heaven, both before death and after. Some realize earth is already in heaven. You are Brahman. You are supreme, collectively intelligent consciousness. If I was a white dove that could speak, I would say, in quotations, wow, humans cannot fly, but their minds are so rooted in existence, creative at the same time and moment. Realize reality, an empty symbol filled with meaning only once your spotlight of attention is on. Okay, guys. My Wi-Fi is a bit, I think there's too many people using it, but anyways. pretty much, guys, I'm at the end of the essay. The divine. Okay, guys, because of Wi-Fi issues, talk here. Thanks for listening.